Well then, hello everyone. Welcome back to Sheltered Sages, the show where two formerly homeschooled... two formerly sheltered homeschool students. That's where it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Episode 3, and we're already forgetting our opening. But we're going to dive into some crazy online Reddit stories and just share our sage opinions. My name is Andrew.
My name is Philip.
And this episode is actually going to be related to the workplace. Because we've delved a little bit into relationships and just family. So we thought, why not spice it up a little bit with workplace drama?
Absolutely. Like if you work at a place consistently, you know that we'll say work family, they are a big part of your life. Like you see them maybe 8 hours out of the day, you are friends with some of them, maybe you don't like them as much. So there's drama that happens at work that can only really happen at this weird little space outside of your normal everyday life.
Absolutely. I mean, they call your workplace almost your second family because you're there so often. So as with any family, there is drama. But that's for another episode, because this episode we're talking about workplace drama.
Absolutely. So, let's do it.
All right. So I've got the first story, and just a reminder, if we're doing any of the Am I the Picklefoot stories, a picklefoot is the same thing as an a-hole, but, just a little bit more listener friendly.
Absolutely. Makes it easier for you to play this episode for your family if you would like to.
Absolutely. Now, with our first episode, you talked about sometimes workplace people being friends, so that kind of segues really nicely into the first story that I have for us today.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yep. Am I the picklefoot for telling my coworker I'd report them for stealing my project idea?
Ooh. No, absolutely not.
We'll certainly find out. All right. We'll dive into the story. I spent months developing a proposal for a workplace initiative. My coworker and friend, Alex, name changed, of course, presented it as their own during a meeting. When I confronted Alex privately, they said, "It's just a project. Don't ruin our friendship over this." I told Alex I'd escalate to our manager unless they acknowledged my work. Alex accused me of being petty and jealous, both in quotes. Our manager reprimanded me for creating drama.
Oh no.
Yeah. Am I the picklefoot for prioritizing professional integrity over our friendship?
That's it?
That's it. It's a start.
Oh my gosh. That's... Okay, that's a lot. I'm going to start just... So, especially in a professional sense, projects and being recognized for your abilities and what you've done are very, very important, because you can work your entire life and not be known for the incredible things that you've done for the company. I've seen a lot of people stay at places for decades without actually being known for what they've done. That said, generally there are a lot of people there that for some reason or another are really good at making it seem like they do more than they actually do. Those people frustrate me, because like in every single situation, every single workplace that you can go to, even if you really work alone, you're like, okay, well, there's going to be at least one person there that's a faker. This, where if the faker is we'll say in this case, your friend, who saw that you were doing something really good, took that project and passed it off as their own, that's not a friend.
No, that's what I was thinking when I first read this. It was like, any person that's going to take something that you've been pouring your work into, and we don't know what kind of work that they do, it's not really going into, but anytime that it's like it's a project and like a proposal for work. Okay, so they said a proposal for a workplace initiative. So the thing that I think is a little interesting about that is, like, so Andrew, deep dive. Before I worked as a martial arts instructor, I worked as a server, things like that before. But prior to all of that, I actually worked for 5 years at one of our local sheriff's office as a 911 dispatcher. And so when I worked in that department, there were a lot of opportunities for us to do workplace initiatives and things like that. But it was one of those things with a workplace initiative. The goal is not about the self-recognition. It's about like trying to help with the workplace environment and things like that. So there's a little bit of my thought process that's like, well, this is just a workplace initiative. So how important is it for you to get that recognition? But at the same time, it's not your friend is not a good friend if they steal all of that. And especially they spent months developing that. So that's where I'm just like, that's not okay to just take something from someone, even if it's not like trying to make a proposal for a new company to like your business acquires a new company or trying to have them join you or something like that. It's like, that's such a betrayal of like anything. And like, and your friendship isn't going to survive this. It's not. Even if you choose to drop it, it's not going to be anything good.
No. And I would say that the only other thing with it is to giving respect to where it's due is important, because this person worked on this for months, right? So they put the time and attention into it. They put the thought process there. If another workplace initiative is coming up, they should be in charge of making that happen, potentially because they're good at it. Versus if you took this other friend who says, oh yeah, I did it, and took the recognition for it, they have no idea what they're doing. Or maybe they do. I'm going to be nice. Maybe they are just as good at workplace initiatives as this friend. But if I was their boss, I would want to know who really was the mastermind behind it, so I could have them help me out with new ones if I want to have more.
Exactly. And like, I don't know. Have you ever been in a situation where like something like that has happened to you, where like you were working on a project and like it was coming along and then someone like was like, I'm so proud of this thing that I've been working on with my team?
Without giving any very, very specific instances.
That's totally fair.
As a filmmaker, I did a lot of visual effects for smaller productions. So with those smaller productions, generally sometimes you have like credits towards it, and I try to get credit on each of the things I do. Often I would get paid for it, but sometimes, it's complicated. It's exposure. It's fun. For a lot of the work I did, though, it was more cleanup of the shots. So wire removals or painting out certain aspects of it just to make it look more like the movie world.
Okay.
If I did my job properly, you will not notice that I was in the shot.
Okay, that's cool.
Which is great, right?
Yeah.
Except people didn't notice. And it was a lot easier for those filmmakers, one in particular, to go, okay, great, you did a great job with this. That's it. And at one point, I was reaching out to them and saying, like, hey, I did all this work for you. What's going on? Like, you just kind of just ghosted me for a bit. We had a deal. Did not speak to me at all. Later on, I saw that movie come out on a bunch of different platforms, and my shot is in there. It's beautiful. You would never be able to tell that there's like an entire bench on the side of it and like a deck in the corner because I cleaned it up. But I was like, oh, I'm not even in the credits for that. There's nothing there.
But how can you just not credit someone? Like it's just a line of text that's like, this person did this. Yeah, that's the thing that makes me upset. Is it's like you don't lose credibility by saying, hey, me and this person did this thing.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, in this scenario, there was no this person. It was like he did all the work and then his friend came up and snatched that away from him.
Yes.
And that's a big issue. That's so not cool.
So I'm saying not the pickle foot.
Yeah.
That's not cool at all.
Yeah.
Do we have comments?
We do have some comments, yeah.
Okay.
So first comment, don't tell them that you're going to do it. Take your documentation and proved that you worked on it and bring it to your boss. And they also said workplace friendships are straightforward. Either people are your friends and support your work because the team benefits from it, or they're not your friends. This is not a friend.
Yeah, this is not your friend.
And then someone else replied to that comment saying, yes, just show the boss your work. I have to wonder if they worked on this together. This person says there's no such things as workplace friendships, which I know is an absolute lie.
Yeah.
One more person said yes. And the friend, in quotes, already ruined your friendship by betraying your trust and stealing your work and is refusing to take responsibility for it. Unfortunately, if you show proof to your boss and they don't care, that tells you that you need to just drop the matter. But definitely drop the friend too. That's not how friends behave. So it's just like a lot of people very much the same mindset, not the pickle foot.
And I agree with them go over to the boss and show your work because that's quite important as well. You have to have proof that you worked on it. But that added thing of they worked on it together.
Yeah. Like, there might have been some like unofficial collaboration that occurred.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of goes into our philosophy of like, don't question the authenticity of the post.
Yeah.
But it's just that wondering of like, okay, but did they? And now this person's like, well, they didn't credit me at all, so I did all the work for it.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, we all feel that we do more work than sometimes we actually do. Or maybe it's the opposite. But like, no, it's...
That reminds me. Okay.
Yes.
I just finished reading a book.
Oh, yes.
It is a Brandon Sanderson book.
Yes. Okay, we're going to talk about Brandon Sanderson.
Okay, just a tiny little bit. I'm going to give the name of the book because it's pretty good. Oathbringer. Fantastic book. Read the entire series if you got the time.
The Stormlight Archives.
Stormlight Archives, yes, absolutely. But in the beginning of the next book, when I started it, he goes into this entire list of every single person, basically, that has helped him with that series. Brandon Sanderson is a very well-known author.
Yes,
like, he's
incredibly talented.
One of the top authors right now and just selling books, and just people love what he's doing. Yet, he still took the time in the beginning of his book to list out those people. And even he says it's because his name is on the front of that book, but this was created by a ton of people that went behind it. So with any process or project or initiative, like, it is better to give respect to those who have helped you out, because maybe they don't care. Maybe they are completely okay with you going, yeah, this is me, I'm going to put my name on the front of it and be done with it. But if they do care, what do you lose by going over and putting their names on there as well?
Right. And that's, I did love that. I remember when, because I recommended the book series too, and I remembered when that came out, I was just like, what a love letter to your team and your support.
Yep.
Because it's like, we all need that support. We all need those friends and those people helping us. And it really does benefit people to be able to have that recognition, because like recognition is what fuels people.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people in workplaces leave jobs because they don't feel recognized, that they don't feel satisfied. And I know my wife works in management, and so I know a lot of times with their initiatives, they talk a lot about that, about recognizing your employees, making them feel seen. So even if it's just between friends, it's really important that you are recognizing those people.
Absolutely. And if your boss doesn't recognize it after you prove to them that it was your idea, then you might want to think about going to a different company, or at least a different section of the company.
If that's an option available to, absolutely. But yeah, so that's the end of our first story.
I like that. That was really nice.
Nice little ease into our stories.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give you one that might be a little complicated. Okay. You ready for this?
Love it. Let's do it.
So it's, am I the picklefoot for refusing to buy Girl Scout cookies from my coworker?
Oh, gosh. Is this about me?
What? You refuse to buy Girl Scout cookies?
They didn't have money.
Okay, that's another thing. I respect that. You're not the picklefoot. I will give you that. I know you. All right, you ready for this?
Let's do it. Let's hear my story.
I, 36, female, am a new manager at my office. I started about 4 months ago, and while I've been trying to get to know my team, I still don't have all the dynamics figured out. One of my team members recently asked me to buy Girl Scout cookies from his daughter, and I said I couldn't because I have celiac disease, which makes me allergic to the cookies. He suggested I purchase a box and give it to a friend or family member because it would mean a lot to him and his kid. The conversation continued back and forth, but we didn't argue, so I thought everything was fine between us. Then I find out that he's been talking behind my back about how bad of a manager I am because I'm stubborn and stingy, in quotation marks. Apparently, their previous manager used to buy a lot of cookies, so I look mean in comparison. I'm not close to enough with my other coworkers, besides the one who told me about the gossip, to talk to them about this, but I get the impression they're on his side because one of them made a big show of leaving a plate of cookies they'd bought from him in the break room, telling everyone to help themselves, then saying directly to me, "This flavor is gluten-free, so feel free to eat some." I wanted to keep the peace, so I just said thanks. But I didn't eat any because I'm pretty strict about cross-contamination with gluten, which is absolutely fair. I worry that I made things worse by not eating them, but at the same time, I don't think I'm obliged to support his cause. My friends say I should just buy a box this time, and if he does it again, then I can stand my ground. But it's not really about the cookies now. It's about him trying to shame me into doing what he wants. Am I the picklefoot for not buying cookies from him?
See, this is hard. So, like, I get the celiac disease. I have a, cousin on my wife's side who is very, like, serious celiacs. Like, there are restaurants we don't go to. There are things that we don't do unless she knows that they're really strict on the cross-contamination. Things like that. So I know it is serious. Like, celiac is not a gluten intolerant. Celiac is like, I can go into the hospital if I eat gluten.
Yes.
So I respect that and take that into serious consideration. That being said, especially as a manager, what a great opportunity you had to build a positive rapport with your coworker.
Ooh.
That you chose to miss out on.
Okay.
By, it's expensive. I'm not gonna lie. They're expensive nowadays. I don't know when this story was written, but like they're like $8 for a box of cookies nowadays. But like, what a great way to start a positive relationship with your employee by just buying a box of cookies.
That's true.
So I get where she's saying. She is technically, and I'm not going to go fully into my, like, not the picklefoot thing. I don't think, strictly speaking, she is the picklefoot because she had every right not to and had her reasonings for it. But the way she's responding to all of this is like, well, now it very much screamed, it's the principle of it now.
Yeah.
And so So I'm saying a very stingy, not the picklefoot, because this could have been a really great opportunity to like deepen that bond with your coworker and to try and actually be intentional about, and it's Girl Scout cookies. That helps out the Girl Scout troop. It's going to help his daughter. And what better way to say that you care about someone than by like doing something that supports their kids?
Yeah.
And so I come at it from that angle of like, if you're wanting to make this management position last and to get on the best like term possible for your coworker or for your team underneath you, do what you can for your coworkers.
That's fair.
And I don't know if they're on the same management level or if it's the position below. It sounds like one of her people that are below her probably that reports to her. So if that's the case, then it's very much like, hey, be a good team member in that regard, or be like a good manager and just like, I support you in helping your kid. Like, this is like, I can't really enjoy this, but buy the box and do what the person did. Buy a box of cookies and open it for the office. That would have been a really great opportunity. You're buying donuts for the office basically at that point in time.
That's fair. I can see that.
Yeah. Now I will say, I know I'm going on a little bit of a ramble, but how the person who the cookies were not bought from is handling it, not appropriate at all.
No.
And that would absolutely leave a sour taste in my mouth. And I felt, as I was saying at the beginning, I have been in the position where I'm like, money is so tight, I cannot buy you Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, when money was more looser and I had the opportunity, I was getting those Thin Mints because let me some Thin Mint cookies. But it is that reality of like, sometimes it's not working, but that wasn't her reasoning for it. That was just the thing. I'm just like, that's how I feel about it. So again, not the picklefoot, but a really like only by the legal sense of it. You know what I mean?
I wasn't thinking about it in that way at first, but yes, I kind of agree with that. Workplaces are weird, especially when you go to a new place and people have been around each other for a long time. Like, there's a precedence that's there that she didn't necessarily know about, but once you realize it, sometimes you're going to have to don't do something that you don't agree with just because people are pushing you to do it in this new workplace. Like, follow your morals and do that. But sometimes to be a part of the group or to kind of fit in with this new location, especially in a position of power, you're going to have to kind of go along with it. So, and the place that I work currently, there are sometimes like donuts that are in a certain area or certain little small parties that are there. We're not obligated to go. But if you don't go to many of them, it comes across that you're not a team player, you're not really focused on it. So if I have something else that I really need to do, then I'll skip it. But if I can be there, if I'm not working as much at that point, it's better to go into it. What I do think is interesting, though, is the transfer of money in those cases. It gets complex when you have coworkers that are asking you to do something outside of your normal work task, especially concerning money. So let's switch it from Girl Scout cookies and say, like, I want you to support my, I don't know, investment strategy. And so, like, you give me money for this, I'll go over and invest that money and give it back to you. It's not specifically what we work on, but I'm giving you an opportunity to make some money on the side or get something, a product from me that I'm selling. Technically, while it's not bad in that way to purchase something from someone else or purchase a service from someone that you work with, it could be thought as a conflict of interest because like you're the manager and they expect it, like in the story, he expected her to buy those cookies, not because he knew she liked those cookies or because they had rapport, but because their previous manager bought those cookies.
It's almost like you use the investment strategy. I think of like an MLM, like a multi-level marketing scheme, because it's like I had one of those coworkers who was like really invested into essential oils. And let me tell you, the amount of times that I was encouraged to get some peppermint oil. I love peppermint, don't get me wrong, but like peppermint oil should not be something I'm being sold at work and feel guilty about not buying.
Yes.
And so I think with it being Girl Scout cookies, it's known to be almost like it's basically you're donating to a Girl Scout troop with the receipt of I get delicious cookies out of it. So it kind of destroys a little bit of that like faux pas, but I get what you're saying though, when it's like you shouldn't be held responsible for like, hey, I feel uncomfortable with this happening. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Would you like some comments?
Oh, always. Yes.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Here's the comments. The first one that I have here, it says, not the Picklefoot. The only Girl Scout cookies that are gluten-free have to be shipped with 4 or more other boxes of cookies. And they don't even declare whether or not they're made in a shared facility. Fellow celiac here. Health is not something to be taken lightly, and you should never be forced to buy something you can't even consume. Now, on the other side of it, someone responded to this comment and said, that's not actually the issue, though. The original poster isn't obligated to buy cookies from this guy's daughter. He should never have insisted, and the rest of the colleagues are out of line shaming her for it. Even if she could eat them, maybe she doesn't want them, can't afford it, improbable, but you don't know people's finances, or doesn't support the organization. It's ridiculous to judge her for it.
And that kind of comes back to what we were talking about too, of it's just like there's so many things that go into it.
They did an update.
I love an update.
They said, thank you everyone for weighing in. I'm surprised by how many people have been affected by people selling things in their office. I definitely won't be buying his cookies, and I'm going to sit down with him to discuss the bad mouthing. I think I'll wait to escalate this to HR because I'm getting the sense that he wouldn't respond well. It's definitely tough as a new manager and woman, so I'm determined to do this right.
Yeah, that's a whole other dynamic that I hadn't even taken into account. And I don't feel I'm qualified to effectively take into account. No, that's a good point though.
Yeah. So I still say not the Picklefoot, but I'll give you the stingy, not the Picklefoot. And I probably should have handled it better.
Yeah, and that's where it just comes across in my opinion. But I always try and think of the big picture with things, and maybe I'm too much of a pushover, but that's how I felt about it.
You're good. You're like, I want cookies. Why we got to say no to that?
Why we got to say no to cookies, guys?
I just want cookies. Buy the cookies. Give them to me. I'm okay with that, right? If you want to buy cookies and get them to me, I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. Any listeners out there that want to send us Girl Scout cookies, we will take them. Hands down. I mean, I will.
Sure.
I can't speak for
if it's legal and everything like that.
Oh yeah,
we'll
of
do
course.
that.
Don't send us illegal cookies. My goodness. I didn't think I needed to specify that, but you know what? This day and age,
Yeah,
this day and age, you got to specify that.
Oh my gosh. Oh
gosh.
So, do you have a story for me?
I do. I have
Okay.
another, and this one's going to be interesting.
Oh no.
Okay. All right.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. We might have to edit this and put this at the beginning, but trigger warning for ableism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I the picklefoot for trying to get a coworker fired for having a service dog?
Yes.
All right, and story, your TikTok.
Yeah.
All right, let's dig into the story.
Okay.
Because maybe some additional context will change your mind.
Okay.
Last summer, my employer hired someone new. On her second day here, she shows up with a dog, telling everyone on our shift it's her service dog, in quotes. I personally don't like dogs at all, and honestly, this girl doesn't even look like she's sick or disabled. Our manager told us that he told her she could bring it in, but he didn't bother asking our shift for our approval about it, so we all feel blindsided. And I told him none of us are going to work with her or train her, and there will be problems if he lets her keep bringing the dog. The dog was huge and looked like a police dog, not even the right breed for a service dog, in quotes, and it mostly just laid under her desk the whole time. She told another employee that he has him for PTSD, and she had, also in quotes, this is what the writer put it, also in quotes, and she has heart problems. She looks like she is only maybe 25 or so and doesn't look like she did any military service, and I personally think she's lying about everything and is just not all there in the head. Working with someone like that worries us. Most of our shifts and night shift wrote emails to our manager saying we didn't want the dog here and had concerns working with someone like her. But he wouldn't listen to us and said the dog has a right to be here. He likes dogs, so of course he doesn't care. None of us on the shift want to be around a nasty dog all day, so we made several complaints to his boss and to HR, and she went to leave for a good month before coming back without the dog. Manager moved her to another shift, and I'm skeptical if it was even a real service dog at all, if she can come back without it. Plus, she didn't even have it on the first day she worked with us. However, this is in all caps, just a few days ago, she showed up with it again, also in all caps. The other shift doesn't seem to care, but sometimes there's an overlap once or twice a month where she could be on our shift, and this is all in caps as well, I do not want to work with a dog or a brain-damaged girl. We immediately complained again about it being there, and she said her accommodations were to have a dog and was approved by HR, and she wouldn't need it with her all the time, but just on some days when she was, quote-unquote, in a bad shape, whatever that means. I think she's faking. She does not look sick at all. No matter what we do, management isn't on our side. Even though our manager's boss agrees with us, HR doesn't and seems to be on her side, which is really infuriating. Our shift threatened that we'd have to quit if she was allowed to keep the dog with her at work, and we've expressed we refuse to work with her because of it, and told HR that we have people in here with dog phobias or allergies, and basically anything we could come up with to get rid of her, but they don't care. Am I the picklefoot for wanting her removed? Nobody except a couple people on her new shift even like her, and we don't want to have her to work in the same place as a dog.
I'm sorry. Is that
That
the
is
story?
the end of the story.
He's like, is it he?
I don't have a gender on the writer, unfortunately.
They're basically saying, I don't like this person. Get rid of them. Which, in a way, I'm gonna start with that. I respect that. At least you were honest enough to go, I just really don't like this person, and I am against them in almost every single way I possibly can be. Now, I know we started this out by saying we should infer or just believe the stories that we're getting across here, right? Like, they wrote the story out, we should believe that all of this is here. Even with that preface to the story, what I heard was there's an individual that has a service dog for a mental, we'll say mental illness in this case, and this person and the coworkers do not like this person or the service dog. So much so that they feel absolutely within their rights to get rid of both of them. But like, where do they work? What do they do?
I don't know. So that's the thing that's interesting is they say something about like the shifts. again, I have nothing to go on, and there's nothing in the comments about where it is that they work.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a feeling like at a hospital almost, or like somewhere where there's like shift work where it over like, you know, day shift and night shift and it overlaps or things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure. We're never given a specific information about what it is that they do for work. But like I was getting almost like nursing or something. No, nursing, they wouldn't have a dog available because that would be, well, they could have a dog, but it would just be really chaotic to try and be managing all of that.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know what they do, but it's like, well, no. And she says it sits under the desk all day, which is a sign of a good service dog, by the way. I'm going to get into a personal story a little bit.
Yeah.
But does this also boil your blood just a little bit?
It makes me quite frustrated.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go down a list in my mind, just really quick on there.
Yep.
Service dogs come in all shapes and sizes.
Correct.
Yes, there are some very terrible people who fake service dogs in various many ways, and they are not good people. That said, there are a lot of individuals who do need or are very much assisted by service dogs on a daily basis.
Yep.
I have some coworkers that come in with their dog. They're fine. Now, I can understand if this dog was like barking or moving around or being disruptive. From their story, this dog is just sitting there.
Yeah.
Which is what the dog is supposed to do. And then finally, the wording of this, I'm just going to say it, this picklefoot.
Yeah.
The wording of this picklefoot going, I don't want to be with was it dirty dog?
To work with a dog and a brain damaged girl.
And a brain damaged girl.
Yeah.
If I found this post as that individual, I would not hesitate by showing it to my boss and their boss and their boss's boss to do whatever I can to get this person fired, because I don't care where you work. If you're talking about this, like about a coworker, someone that you work with, how else are you talking about the people that you're supposed to be supporting? How else are you talking about your friends and your family members? Like, this isn't cool in any way.
No, not at all. So I will say, so I found this one, and yes, it is originally from Am I the Picklefoot, but it was actually reposted on a subreddit known as Am I the Devil?
Okay, I was waiting for that.
Yep. So because I was just doing a lot of research for like work, and this one came up. And so a little bit of a backstory into me and why that I was very passionate about this story. My older brother and my younger brother both have what's called Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So basically, I'm not going to get too much into it, but their muscles don't grow the way that we normally do, and they're not able to walk and maintain muscle mass like the rest of us. So, well, when my older brother was younger, right when he was, I think in 6th grade is when he got his service dog, actually. And she was a incredibly well-trained dog, and she's the sweetest girl ever. I loved her. I actually got in trouble because I'm not supposed to form a connection with her. It's supposed to be her dog, but like she loved me and I loved her. But such a well-behaved animal. Like, and she was one of the more traditional looking service animals, but there are service animals for all different kinds of conditions. And like for my brother, she would go and she could open doorknobs and she could pick up things they dropped on the floor, and she would like walk right next to him with or without the leash. And she had like commands to go and sit underneath tables, and like you could drop a French fry in front of her and she wouldn't eat it because she was so well trained. And that's like, when I hear stories about people that view service animals like this, it destroys me, because I'm just like, it's like, I want to talk about ableism a little bit, but it's like, how terrible of a mindset do you have to have about the world in general, that you're like, well, she's 25 and clearly she doesn't look like there's anything wrong with her. Like, you don't know what disability looks like.
No.
There are so many people in this world that from the front facing look, quote unquote, just fine, but are struggling with things you will never understand. And so I went ahead and put in the definition of ableism, just because I know that word gets thrown around a lot, and I want to make sure that it's like defined. So Oxford Dictionary defines ableism as discrimination in favor of able-bodied people. So a person with disability can struggle with that, and this is this idea of like, well, you just need to be normal like the rest of us, and that is what that person was screaming. And it's disgusting. It's
gross. And what you were saying too, people of all differing abilities could have potentially a disability. You might not be able to see it, and to assume that you're going to be able to understand this person on a level that you feel is correct or right is incorrect. And then beyond that, it's like, I don't care. Honestly, I think the biggest problem I have with service animals is that they're so darn cute, and I want to pet them.
Yes. So
that's the only thing. And my wife and I talk about this often whenever we see like a police dog, a service dog, any kind of animal that's supposed to support. We're like, they're doing their job. You have to let it go, but I just want to give them pets and feel like, you are such a good dog.
You're so good. Well, so we were actually talking about this last night at dinner, and like when my wife, she used to work at a resort, and one of them, like, it was a resort that had like a campground and things like that. And so there was one time when she was working there, and he'd come by pretty frequently, but there was a guest that would come by, and they actually had an emotional support pig. Yes. And I'm not talking like a little teacup pig. I'm talking like a huge pig.
Yeah.
And so the company that she worked for recognized ADA compliance, which is dogs, and is also, interestingly enough, small horses, like mini horses or something like that. But they were actually very, very good for, this company was very good at making accommodations for the emotional support animals and things like that, especially if they were certified and things of that nature. But guess what this pig's name was?
What was it?
Bacon. And he would give you kisses. You could hold out your hands in front of him, and he would come up and rest his chin on it, and he'd give you little nuzzles on your face.
I would have cried.
I would have cried too.
I would have just
cried. So anyways,
cried.
this person, not that you're ever going to listen to this podcast, but if you do, make friends with that person. Let them, that way you can pet their cute dog.
The last thing towards this kind of person, there are a lot of those kinds of people in various different workplaces. For the people that are isolated by them, it's generally like a they, us versus them. And even in the story you heard, it's like, all of us at this workplace do not like this person who has this dog. All of us at this workplace do not agree with it. I don't think that's the truth.
I don't think that's true.
It's usually not. And like, I know we preface it by saying, listen and believe the story, but also you can kind of tell from this person too that they might not be telling the full truth in this. And for that, it's like, you do what you can, you keep going, because there's going to be people out there on a podcast in a random place listening to your story, or this person yell about you and going, no, he's wrong.
Yeah.
Or they're wrong in that way. So it's like, I'm sorry to the person that this person was talking about. You didn't deserve that. And I don't know what happened. Is there any updates from there?
There are not any updates. Okay. There are some comments, though, if you want me to get into it.
Yeah, let's do comments.
So first off, you're the picklefoot. That's what the person said. They didn't quote the story. They're like, this girl doesn't even look sick or disabled. Not every disability is visually obvious, which is what we talked about. Another quote, he didn't bother asking our shift for our approval about it. Probably because it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Another quote, I told him none of us were going to work with her or train her. If it's within your job description to do so, that's a great way to get yourself fired.
Boom.
Another quote, and it mostly just laid under her desk the whole time. And the person said, and the issue is, question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, that's... And again, another quote, doesn't look like she did any military service. So they replied, PTSD isn't military exclusive.
No, it's not.
There's so much more in your post to dissect, but I think I'm done telling you just how big of a picklefoot you're being. You're incredibly ignorant and rude. Not only that, your employer is most likely legally obligated to allow the dog or else face a discrimination lawsuit.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, like, so, especially with PTSD.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I worked at the sheriff's office, and I didn't think I was going to directly correlate it to this story either. I actually, after working there for 5 years and hearing some really, really awful stuff, was officially diagnosed with PTSD myself. I had to go like for 10 solid weeks where I was like actively seeing a specialist designed for PTSD because I was having like waking nightmares. I was struggling to come into work, and I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't eat, and all of these other kind of things that were just terrible. But that's why I like when they say things like that, like, oh, they didn't do military service, so they shouldn't have. You can have PTSD from so many different sources.
Yeah.
And so it's like, It makes me mad. I have many thoughts that are not appropriate in a public podcast forum, but
absolutely. This is the picklefoot of a very special breed.
I feel like we should name a moniker for these people as like deviled eggs or something like that.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah,
they are the deviled eggs.
They are the deviled eggs. They are above a picklefoot. They are a deviled egg.
So picklefoot, deviled egg.
Deviled egg. Yes, that's what I feel.
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I think I respect the boss a little bit more too. Mm-hmm. From the story too, it doesn't seem like they super supported this individual, but they didn't support the person who was telling the story.
Yeah.
Which is great. Like, stay your ground. I mean, even if it's just for a legal reason, stay your ground.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
How are we doing time-wise?
We potentially have time for one more story.
Do you want to do one more?
Let's do one more story.
This story comes from the subreddit r/malicious compliance.
Oh no. Why does this exist?
Because malicious compliance is fun.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Expense reimbursement policy. I'll follow it to the letter. So, at my previous job, we had a strict expense reimbursement policy. The rule, only expenses with receipts were reimbursed, no exceptions. Mm-hmm. 1 month, I traveled for work and had a few small expenses like bus fares, street parking, and tipping, where getting a receipt was impossible. I submitted my report, clearly listing these minor charges, totaling about $20. Rejected. My manager, quote, no receipt, no reimbursement. Policy is policy. We need every receipt for audit purposes. Fine. Cue malicious compliance.
Here we go.
The next trip, I went all in. Needed a bottle of water, bought it from a fancy cafe with a printed receipt. Short taxi ride? No cash, only expensive app-based rides with e-receipts. Mm-hmm. Instead of public transport, I took more costly options that provided invoices. Mm-hmm. Tipping a server? No cash. Added it to the bill at a high-end restaurant with detailed receipts. My total expenses, $280 instead of $20. I know, right?
That's not that much. Yeah.
In comparison to $20.
That's a bit much, yeah.
When finance processed my claim, my manager was furious. Why is this so high? Well, you said no receipt, no reimbursement, so I made sure everything had a receipt. A new policy was then introduced the following week.
Of course.
Quote, reasonable expenses may be reimbursed at management's discretion, even without receipts. And that's the end of that story.
I love that.
That's so much fun.
I'm just gonna really quickly say, not the picklefoot.
Of course. And good news, not a picklefoot story, but
yeah, not the picklefoot.
Love it.
At times when you have these really strange rules, and I understand, often rules are created to help guide us to do what we'll say is right, or be able to keep social situations kind of in check. Mm-hmm. So like reimbursements and things like that, all that kind of stuff working together, it's helpful. That said, when you have like these layers of rules on top of rules on top of rules that just kind of get lost in it, like, oh, you need a receipt for reimbursement. I can't give you that $20 back, even though I knew exactly where you were at that time. I knew exactly what you did that with that $20. I knew exactly that I could do. I need the receipt for it. Mm-hmm. And so then you go back and you're like, okay, there are those like loopholes in it. I cannot say I am one of the people who likes to find loopholes in rules and like exploit them.
Yeah.
But I do somewhat respect the people that do.
Right.
Because it takes creativity and it takes like that drive to solve that kind of puzzle where there's no rule on how much of those expenses can be reimbursed as according to the story, except just you need receipts for it.
Right. And so like, yeah, same for me. I've never been one of those people that's like intensely malicious compliance. I think you have to be really careful with malicious compliance because it can enter a very toxic environment shortly afterwards. But I also love it to some extent. I get it. So working with kids, you get a lot of malicious compliance.
Of course, kids are great at that.
And so it's like, either that or they're finding the loopholes in everything that you do. Like I literally just the other week had a kid come up where I was like, hey, we're not supposed to be like throwing things in this room. I'm like, oh, I'm not throwing it. And they were rolling it across the ground. And I'm just like, I mean, you're not wrong, but also
you got to be really specific where do not move this object across this spatial area within this amount of time.
Oh my goodness. And so I have respect for it. I think it's like you were saying, like I respect people who have the audacity to do it.
Yes. But at a certain point too, when you're in that position, you're like, just, you know what I mean.
You know what I
meant.
meant.
Get the intent of this role.
Yeah.
So please just follow it.
Well, and that's where it comes down to like where the manager was at. Where it's like, okay, have that conversation. Don't be the picklefoot to your employee being like, no receipts, no reimbursements. It's like, hey, it's like, I know you got these things, you just bought these, like this bottle of water, things like that. I totally get it. And I respect that you use cash, but unfortunately per our company policy, we can't reimburse you for that.
Yep.
That's all I got to do. And then it's a conversation, and it's not a condescending looking down on your manager or looking down on your employee and be like, well, that $20 is gone. You're not getting it back anymore.
Yep.
Like that's where I'm like, and most of the time these malicious compliance stories happen because of bad management. And some people shouldn't be in management.
Yep.
Not my wife. She's amazing. But other people shouldn't be in management.
Yeah. And then it's also on top of the layer of this is the role, this is the good management, like you're saying, would have tried to look into other opportunities for it. Because it seems like you could just easily make a new rule towards it. So maybe if they just fought for their employee a little bit, saying, I know it's made, like, I know they did in cash. I know they don't have any receipts for it. It's just $20.
Yeah.
Can we just work through this?
Right.
There are rules, but if you know the right people and get high enough in the system, suddenly those rules don't matter as
They're more
much.
like suggestions.
Exactly.
To quote Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly. And so then it's like, okay, if you know at a certain point they're going to just become more of a suggestion than a rule, try to fight for them. Because at the end of the day, which my current boss is saying now, a manager's job is more about the people than it is necessarily about the job. If you treat your people right, they will support you and they will support that company.
Absolutely.
And so whatever you can do to make sure that they're not fighting against like a $20 no receipt reimbursement, or even just like where they're sitting in a certain area, it's like, I'm supporting you in that. Then I know so often these people will go above and beyond for it. Maybe even go, you know what? You helped me out so much before. I don't care about the $20 reimbursement. Yeah. I know that the company should give it to me, but like I respect that there's a no receipt policy. I know you've supported me and everything else. I get it. It seems like this manager, just inferring from the story, did not do that.
Did not do that at all.
And probably will not do that later on.
Yeah, that manager probably got in big trouble, honestly, because they're probably responsible for the employee that they're having to reimburse the $208 for.
Gosh.
So,
yeah.
Do you want to hear a couple comments? Because there's some fun comments on this one. The best part about these are they start sharing their own stories of malicious compliance. So we have little nuggets into other things.
Oh, I love this.
So,
let's go.
One person commented, apparently another story about malicious compliance. I liked one where they wouldn't expense driving costs. So the guy books multiple connecting flights for something that should have been a 2-hour drive. It was 20 times the cost or something ridiculous like that.
Yep.
And the person replied, the baffling part is that that some businesses are actually okay with extra expenses, providing there's documentation. The bean counter just wants to put the numbers in. I don't know if that's an insult or something.
It is a slight insult there, but it's true. So many places, they don't really care. Yeah. It's just like, this is how it works. And sometimes they get kickbacks by using those type of systems. So it's like, I don't care, run it up.
Yeah. Someone else commented, I had the same thing, not as extreme. Had to work in downtown San Diego. Parked in front of the building with $35, so I drove a couple blocks down and found a lot that had one of those boxes you slip cash into, the slot that matches your parking spot. Sent them a picture of the box with a $13 rate and they wouldn't pay. Got my $35 every time I had to go back. So they parked in a $35 parking spot instead of the $13 because they wouldn't reimburse the $13.
That's crazy. That reminds me of the story that I heard before. I don't know if it's true or not, but they're like, the guy goes over to a bank and he gets a loan for like $1,000 and uses his car as collateral. And then he leaves for like months on end and comes back, repays back the $1,000 and then gets his car back. And they're like, why did you do that? It's like, your car cost way more than like this thing. It's like, well, this is the cheapest and probably the most secure place I could have parked my car because I know you guys aren't going to get rid of it.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. I love that. Yeah. I don't know if that's a true story either because I can't think of any bank that holds a car as collateral. Yeah. But at the same time, I love that creative thinking.
Exactly.
But yeah. Well, that was a fun story to end on. I know the service animal one was a little heavier than I wanted it to be, but at the same time, I was like, I found that story. I was like, I can't not share it because I have so many thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things that happen at work. There's a lot of crazy people that are at work. But like, I always come down to the point of it's your work life and your personal life should be separate. Mm-hmm. But you should make sure that even in those two separate lives that you are following the same principles and the logic that you would in either of those. So like, don't be a jerk at work.
Yeah.
Like with the first story when the guy was taking credit for something that he didn't do. It's like, come on, dude, get past our, or the second one where this individual is kind of calling this person out for not buying cookies, but then the other person is calling this individual out for like forcing them to buy cookies. It's just like, be kind.
Yeah.
You're only here for a certain amount of time. Just try to be cool with everyone. And if you can't, talk to them. Again, communication.
What?
Communication is super important.
Is important
for the deviled egg, though. I don't think any communication other than a. Do they still give out pink slips?
I was gonna say they need a pink slip. That's the kind of communication they need.
Yeah, pink slip communication for them, that'll be fine. But yeah, it's just like talk to each other. Be nice. Just be nice at work.
Yeah, honestly. And that's the thing too, is like, I am really proud that like one of the things as a homeschooler that I was really instilled on was the strong idea of a work ethic.
Yep.
Of like recognizing who your team is, working, like having a strong, like desire to put in good work, even if you're not necessarily recognized for it. Like, so that's a big takeaway that I think we should get from this week. It's just like, you need to be the person at work who you be proud to go home with.
Yep.
Like whatever you're comfortable sleeping, like what with your decisions, going to bed at night, you know, that's what's the most important at the end of the day. And so that. Don't bully people with service animals. I will come and find you. I am a 2nd degree black belt.
He is. He is.
Yeah, don't do it in front of me. I will. I have very many feelings on that. Not promoting violence, but also.
Yes. But we have socials.
Yes.
We have a bunch of socials. They should be in the description. I know this is the 3rd episode.
Yep, this will be the 3rd episode. So if you would like to continue to watch our podcast or watch our YouTube video, if you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. There's a little bell that's next to the subscribe button you can ping, and it'll actually notify you of every single time that we post an episode, and even if we do like shorts or things like that, which I've got some ideas for, so we might be doing some fun stuff with that.
I think we have shorts out right now.
We do, but are just like clips, but I want to do shorts that are not directly related to the episode. So I know I've got some ideas. We'll work on that.
Okay, cool. That's incredible.
Other side of it, if you're listening on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, there are ways to both follow the episode. You can actually have them where they download automatically. Yep. And if you could leave us a rating, that would do us a huge service. Just let other people find us and let join our little sheltered sages. Little club that we got going on.
Exactly. If you will enjoy it, I'm sure other people will enjoy it as well. So just make sure that they can see it. Share it out. Send it to your friends, family members. If you agree with these Picklefoot, I guess, judgments on there, or if you don't.
If you disagree, leave it in the comments. Let's start a conversation. I love it. I'm trying to be very active in our comments of being like, oh, I see you saw the episode. Thank you so much. Or, just like, if you leave an opinion, I'd love to have a discourse with you because I'm all about open dialogue. It's so much fun.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah,
this
absolutely. Good. Have a good day, everyone.
See ya.